Okay, so today we're going to review, as I was just mentioning, how to use SurveyMonkey in a way to look at your data in a different way to help come up with better recommendations. They've got some great tools, which are amazing to use. So in our Blackboard site, you will see I have posted all this information. This information is for you to look at and review, obviously, as well as a LinkedIn Learn sort of an exercise and lesson that you can do that takes about 10 minutes. And it's really helpful information. So I'm going to go through this um, live with you guys right now as it's being recorded, and you can look at this afterwards. So let's start off by looking at the SurveyMonkey video. This one's pretty basic. It's only 2 minutes, but let's just watch it together. So I'm just going to launch it. Did it come up on the screen, Kyla?
Yes, it did, Ron.
Okay, thank you.
We're in the Analyze Results section, and we want to apply a filter and a comparison to the data that we have here. If we scroll down, we can see we have 3 female responses and 2 male. And we can see that we have 3 students in first year, 1 in second year, 1 in third year. Now, if we go up to here, and under the current view, we can choose the filter option to filter by question and answer. So we can choose the question that we want to filter by. In this case, we're going to filter and we're going to choose all that we want to see. So if we just want to see the females, we click on female, click apply, and it will update to show us only the responses from the 3 females. So we can see the 3 females, and we have 2 in first year and 1 in second year. If we want, we can then delete the rule so that it goes back to click and delete, and we go back to seeing all our responses. Notice that under filter, we can also filter by a number of other different options, including by collector, which means that if you have multiple collectors, some different URLs or different ways of collecting your data, you can filter to see only the responses by a particular collector.
Actually, this is an interesting tool because filtering by collector, for example, your study, Kyla, that you were just explaining to me, you may find that if you collected information in different ways, you may get a different result in your quantitative survey.
To compare results, so say we want to do a comparison between, in this case, maybe we want to see the different years of the students who responded broken down by their gender. So here we can compare by question and answer. Choosing the sex variable here, we can choose to compare females against males. So you can choose 2 options here and click apply. And what will happen is it will produce separately the results for males and females differently. So obviously it doesn't really make sense on the variable sex, but if you go down here, you can see the breakdown for males and females for the year of study. So we have the results for females here, the results for males here. And you can see in your table how that breaks down as well in terms of the different years and the number of males and females in each. To clear a comparison, just like we did before, you just click on drop down and click on delete rule. And that will then bring us back to viewing all responses.
Okay. So that tool is pretty helpful. You're going to be able to use that shortly to figure out how you're doing with your results and your survey that you've done for the event that you've chosen. You can pick a number of different questions and compare data from how people responded from one question to another question, from sex. There's a plethora of different options you can use, and there's no one rule. So what I'd suggest you do is fiddle with it, and you might find some insights that you're getting that will help you with your conclusions as a whole. So I'm also going to share another video on Blackboard similar to the one I just showed you. So just let me do that. You'll see here that escape. This is using rules with SurveyMonkey, which is similar. So basically, with the rules, you can filter for particular audiences. You can compare different groups of people and how they've answered the survey, similar to what we just saw. this is another video that actually SurveyMonkey's put together. So this video is very good. I'm just going to share this one with you as well.
When analyzing your data, you may want to drill down and focus on something specific. With rules, you can filter for a particular audience, compare how different groups of people answered your survey, and show only the pages or questions that you want. Filters let you view responses from a specific group of people. To create a filter, click the Rules tab from the Analyze page, then click Filter. Now you can choose from a host of different filter options. One of the most popular is to filter by question and answer. For example, here we have a survey aimed at deciding which dog food packaging people prefer. Perhaps you want to see how people with dogs up to 35 pounds answered the survey. Click Filter by question and answer and choose question 1. I only want to see responses from people with dogs 10 pounds or less, or 11 to 25 pounds, or 26 to 35 pounds. Apply the rule and watch your results change. Now you can only see how that group of people answered your survey, so you can gain helpful insights. There are loads of other filters you can choose from as well, such as choosing to view responses from a specific collector, or filtering for responses that were submitted on or between certain dates. If you already added custom data about each contact in an email invitation, you can also filter by metadata, such as their name and any custom info that you have for each person. Once you've created some filters, you can manage them at any time. Just click the Menu tab, where you can easily unapply, edit, or delete your rule. If you've created multiple filters, they can be applied together. For example, here we have a filter to show responses from people that own dogs up to 35 pounds, and another filter to show only complete responses. Since both are applied, we'll see results from people that own dogs up to 35 pounds and have completed the survey. If you only want to apply one of them, just click on the filter to unapply it. You may want to combine your filters with more control. To do that, click Filter and then Combine Multiple Filters. Click the first drop-down to choose between Match and Does Not Match. Then choose the filter that you want. Now click Condition to add another filter. At the moment, when this filter is applied, we'll only show responses from people that both own a dog up to 35. But if you click And, it will change to Or. Now you'll see responses from people that match either filter. You can create multiple combinations and even mix Or and And rules together. Compare rules let you see a side-by-side comparison of how different groups of people answered the survey, so you can compare the relationship between them and understand how they relate to each other. To create a compare rule, click the Rules tab and then click Compare. Say you have a question that asks for gender. You may want to see how women answered the survey in comparison to men. Choose your question and then choose male and female. For each question, you'll now see one chart for how women answered and another for how men answered. With Show Rules, you can choose to only show the data from particular pages or questions in your survey and hide the rest. From the Rules tab, click Show and then choose what pages you'd like to show. If you'd like to pick and choose specific questions instead, click the arrow next to any page and select a question. When you're ready, click Apply. Any page or question that isn't selected in your rule will be hidden, and you'll only see the questions and pages that you selected. And you can save any set of rules, so it's easy to come back later. Just open Save Views and save so you can come back at any time without having to set your rules again.
Okay, so yeah, these rules are very helpful. These videos are stored on our Blackboard site, as I mentioned to you, and they can be used to help you with your analyzing your data right now. Sometimes you may look at a data in a different way, and you're going to get obviously a different perspective, and it may tell a different story than you originally sought out to find. So, for example, you may have had an hypothesis or a main research question. You may disprove your research question or prove your research question. And you may be able to find different recommendations using these filters to comparing data to help you with coming up with some recommendations that you're going to put into your presentation and into your research report for next Thursday. Anyway, are there any questions related to using that function within SurveyMonkey?
I don't have a question about the SurveyMonkey. I was just wondering about how we're going to be presenting and when we're going to be like picking times and stuff for that.
Thank you, Kylie. That's a good question. So what I'm going to be doing today is sending out an email. You guys used this last year. You're going to sign up for your times. So through signup.com, your groups will sign up. What I've suggested for other classes, and we've been doing this quite successfully, is they have been using Zoom. So they sign up for a basic Zoom account and they practice using Zoom ahead of time by sharing their document, presenting. Usually what I suggest to groups is that someone become the master of ceremonies, so to speak, and that leads everybody through the document. For example, if all you were in my group, I'd say, okay, I might do the introduction, lay out the agenda, what we're going to talk about today. Then I'd say, okay, I'm going to give it over to Kyla now to talk about X. Kyla would talk about X and then bring it back to me. I'm also the person that would be sharing the document and leading the presentation. So it's going from slide to slide, or if you're using Prezi, from scene to scene, so that it becomes a very fluid and well done presentation. So Zoom is really easy to use, but what I would suggest you to do is practice using it. You've been using it as a participant. You need to practice with your group ahead of time and rehearse. Otherwise, you'll fumble through it and it won't be as good as you want it to be. Does that help, Kyla?
Yes, it does. Thank you, Ron.
Okay. Also, when you're presenting, you have to show your screen. I know you guys aren't now, which is fine. But you'll show all members of that group will need to show their face on the screen. And I would suggest you wear either business attire or you. This is what's happened in the past. Groups have presented in costume, so they actually presented with something that related to their festival that they were presenting, which was quite comical. It helped with their story. And the problem with presenting data is that it can be extremely boring to the audience. So really good researchers, as we learned last week from our guest speaker, is that you can create a really interesting story, tell that story as if you are trying to tell a story to somebody in a conversation, use props, use techniques. When I worked for TNS Research, which is Cantor TNS now, there was a number of ways they used to take data and convert it into forms that told stories. I'm going to find that video in that company that used to do that so you can see what they used to do. But it was a way for TNS to not just get in and look like a boring researcher, but look like someone that was telling a great and really insightful, really impactful story. That had meaning, that had emotion, that had a way that would capture the audience as a whole. Anyway, is that any other questions, guys? All right, so I'm going to move on to the LinkedIn Learn section that we're going to do. This is another kind of support materials for you. Support materials that allow you to learn how to analyze your data, create a story, different ways to create a story through personas, using a journey map. There's even a fun little quiz you can do on your own to see if you picked up the knowledge on this, which is sometimes not a bad thing to do. So let's just go through it together. Here we go. Just going to share my screen. Get out of this. Back to here. Okay, so when we're in the Blackboard site under our class today, which is class 10, week 6, April the 9th, you'll see that we have an area of presenting your research, LinkedIn Learn. So let me open this up. Can you see this, the LinkedIn Learn screen?
Yes.
Thank you. I asked that because sometimes it doesn't always come up, so I'm just doing it. So let's just take a look at our, this is Sarah Wise. She does a really good job of simplifying research and how to do it. This whole series, if you have time, this is a LinkedIn Learn lesson. You can do this on your own. I've shown one video in the beginning, an introduction to research, but there are a lot of other great videos in here if you're struggling. How to, in this section, it's communicating your research, your deliverables, which are kind of where we're at in our own study. So that's why we're going to look at it today. Let's just look at presenting your research, a crash course in persuasive techniques, which is a really good video, actually. So here we go.
The goal of any research study is actionable results. Yet many teams struggle to convert their customer insights into real changes that move the needle. This happens for two reasons. Either the data doesn't address the questions you set out to answer, or your report isn't memorable, so decision makers gloss right over it. Anyone can toss numbers into a PowerPoint, but you need more. So I'm going to give you some pro tips that will help your message sing. First, and above all else, I can't emphasize this enough, tell a good story. Storytelling is the secret weapon that brings your research to life. Chart after chart won't impress anyone. Instead, try one of humankind's oldest and most effective ways to share what you know about your customers. Authentic stories from real people. Naturally persuasive and shareable, stories leverage a number of psychological triggers. The best ones have unique moments that stick in your mind. I'll never forget walking into a participant's home and finding all of her furniture turned upside down. You see, she had this cat, and he liked to mark his territory, and she literally flipped over the couch and the chairs each time she left the room. This eccentric detail had nothing to do with the research we were there to collect, but that moment, along with the accompanying research, was recounted over and over again within that organization. A good set of signature stories is far more compelling and repeatable than any deck you can create. Second, after you've landed the attention of everyone in the room, remind them why you did the research in the first place. Go back to your objectives and walk through each question you set out to answer. Then answer each one. Nothing says you've hit the mark more than truly actionable data that aligns perfectly to your intent. Limit any sort of written presentation to high-level findings, but leave the nitty-gritty prioritized list of changes with the dev team as a spreadsheet, bulleted list, tickets, or even comments on a prototype. Figure out who you're presenting to and the high-level findings they really need to know. If you're sharing results with a sales team, focus on what you learned about customer buying behavior. If you're speaking to product owners, show them data that mentions their products. Third, make sure your customers are seen. Add pictures of the participants, their environments, and video clips of the interviews. Powerful visuals offer support for your findings and let those in the room feel like they were a part of it. Anytime you can build empathy for your customers in your organization, you're contributing to a more value-driven culture. Personas give a face and a name to an audience segment. They let you paint a picture of a fictitious consumer that represents all the right trends you found for that segment. Journey maps take this a step further, detailing the steps and emotional highs and lows of each segment as they interact with your brand. When you present your research data, incorporate these tips to keep it memorable and actionable. And above all, remember that your energy radiates through your presentations. When you're excited about the results and what they mean to your brand, you'll get everyone else excited too.
Okay, so that's really good insight into how to create a better story for your research and your presentations next week. Another really important thing you could do is create
I
personas.
want to
Let's
start this
listen to this
video
one
by
now.
introducing you to Bill Winters. Bill is 42 and lives in North Carolina. When he was 10 years old, his father had a heart attack. In that moment, Bill vowed to be prepared, and he believes that this is why he's an EMT today. Bill carries his iPad with him wherever he goes. He loves to cook, and his favorite app is the Monterey Bay Aquarium Seafood Watch. Bill's divorced and has 2 teenage daughters. He only sees them on the weekends, but they have a tradition. They cook together. Bill believes that if he can teach his girls to be prepared in cooking, this will translate to the rest of their lives. And Bill was extremely instrumental in creating firstresponders.gov. Now, there's one thing I forgot to tell you about Bill. He's 100% fake. Yep, I made him up. Bill is what we call a persona, a character that translates customer research into a person that you can connect with, market to, design for. Today, I'll share 3 reasons why you should create and use personas. First, personas help you and your team remember the research without having to look it up. As humans, we naturally connect with other humans. Putting a face and a name to an audience segment instantly creates empathy and succinctly summarizes your research findings in a way that's visual, easy to scan, and easy to remember. Pro tip, limit yourself to 3 to 5 personas. You're not trying to represent all possible customers, just the target segments you market to the most. Any more than that, and it's too hard to keep them all straight. The second reason to use personas is to convey how audience segments interact with your brand differently. I've seen a lot of personas over the past 15 years, and I've experimented with new ways to insert real actionable data into them. My favorite method is so simple. It's just 3 quick bulleted lists for how they interact with your brand, what they want, what they're anxious about, and what questions they have. Third, if you're considering a new product, all you have to do is role play. Even though you haven't seen any of my research on first responders, if I showed you a feature on an app, I bet you could tell me in just a couple minutes if it might resonate with Bill Winters. I know role-playing sounds silly, but personas can be so powerful when you step into their shoes and embody the research. In a crowded and noisy marketing world, casting a wide net isn't the best use of your resources. With competition just a click away, you can't afford to miss the mark. Now that you know the basics of personas, try them as a way to articulate your target audience segments. You'll quickly find that they can help your team stay on track when you're building and marketing niche products. A picture and a few bulleted lists is all it takes. You can do this.
Yes, guys. So personas can be used also to tell your story. So you can tell a story
Think
from the
for a
persona's
moment of
point
the
of view.
last truly great product you bought. All great products have one thing in common. They meet the real needs of real people. Even if you have mounds of customer research, if it doesn't translate into a better experience for your customers, it's almost like that research didn't happen at all. Journey maps are a way for your business to make value-driven decisions at specific moments throughout your customer's experience. It's a compact visual of a customer's end-to-end journey, before, during, and after interacting with your brand. Journey maps are not intended to document requirements. Instead, the purpose is to visually communicate how your customer interacts with you from their point of view. Here are 3 proven techniques to document your market research in a journey map. First, include every touch point, even if it doesn't seem significant. Journey maps provide a visual narrative about a customer's experience by listing all the steps that someone goes through. Anywhere your brand and customer meet is an opportunity to make an impact, whether that's on a website, an app, Instagram story, call center, in a store, on a billboard, anywhere.
So journey maps could have been used if we were not in COVID-19 right now. If your event was currently being conducted, you could have done a journey map to figure out the customer experience and things, some pain points, things that were overwhelming your customers, some things that were annoying them. And you could have used this as a really great qualitative way and qualitative form of research to really map out how customers are feeling throughout the whole process.
Many companies have different departments for different parts of the journey. A journey map lays out a high-level view how these touch points interact together so you can intentionally orchestrate a cross-channel experience. By plotting touch points as a continuous path, you'll quickly start to see potential gaps in the experience or moments where there's an opportunity to engage. Second, include emotional reactions at each point of the journey. Why? Because where there is extreme emotion, there's extreme opportunity. Effective journey maps identify both positive and negative emotions and put them in context of your touch points. Often this is a line that shows emotional highs and lows. It's even more effective when you label key emotions a customer goes through on the journey through words, emojis, or both. By learning all we can about the moments where our customers feel frustrated, anxious, upset, we have an opportunity to take a negative point in the customer's journey, flip it around, and truly delight that customer, often resulting in a boost to brand loyalty. Third, layer in other research to help the people in your company empathize with customers. If you have a staggering stat based on your research, drop that into your journey map. Maybe 90% of your customers drop off at a specific point. Highlight that in this visual. Pro tip, adding quotes directly from your customers are a great addition to a journey map because these raw reactions can tug on heartstrings way more than your own high-level summary. For example, a user in one of my past studies said, and I quote, "This language is so hostile, I'm fuming. I can't focus on what I'm supposed to do." A raw, unedited quote like this can help staff connect with users and prioritize features that will turn any mediocre or negative experience around. Journey maps are a powerful way to present your research because they help marketers, product designers, and other stakeholders step into the shoes of your customers. They help you make customer-centric decisions and create a culture where you're constantly looking for ways to improve the customer's experience. Journey maps are meant to be shareable and intriguing, anything but ho-hum, so you can create buzz across your organization about, you guessed it, your research.
So one of the things you can do is you can go and do this quiz on your own. There's a link to it in Blackboard today that you can do the quiz. But before we get out of this, I just want to take a look at the 1-minute video from Sarah. I think she does a great job of communicating research. And she's just going to talk about next steps in terms of research and everything that kind of sums up how to do this, which is kind of good timing for you guys because you're right in the stage where you're doing your research and doing your report, doing your analysis as a group.
Now that you've completed this course, I want to leave you with this thought. The fact that you have taken the time to watch these videos means that you're ready to create real value for your customers. You now know a ton of modern research methods. You have everything you need to get started. The moment this video ends, I'd like you to take a few moments to write down the answers to these 2 questions. What are the next business or product decisions I need to make? And what do I need to know at this moment about my customer? With the answers to these 2 questions nailed down, you'll be able to create a sound research plan and start gathering the customer insights you need. For help along the way, feel free to reach out to me. In addition to conducting marketing research, my company also offers a robust coaching program for individuals and teams. If you're looking for research trends on a younger consumer, check out my book, Instabrain, The New Rules for Marketing to Generation Z. Thanks so much for watching. You are on your way to clear, customer-driven decisions about your business and products. Way to go!
Yeah, way to go. Just kidding. Anyway, so that's a really great video series that you can look at to help you with research. You can take this information into your roles when you finish college. And what I said earlier in the course is that those that really know how to do research, and you're learning this process, will be looked at as strategic thinkers within the organization. You'll be asked to sit at the table with the senior management, they'll look at you for recommendations, which is great because then you are promotable and you are sustainable. You'll be able to stay within a company for a fairly long period of time. Also, you look smart because you're using customer information to make your recommendations, not basis on your biases or your own personal opinions. Your personal opinions can be important, but really if you can back them up with great research, it's a better way for you to make an impact with your organization when you leave to go back into the work world. Anyway, as I mentioned earlier, you guys are in the middle of doing, your research study. And what I'd like you to make sure you do is you practice your presentations. So create a good story. You're gonna have 15 to 20 minutes to present your report. Make sure that report and that story is compelling to everybody. Make sure you use graphs, you tell stories, you can tell it from a persona perspective. You can create a customer journey and what they felt. And as I mentioned earlier, it's okay if you didn't prove or disprove your hypothesis. But what you need to do is follow up with that. Follow up with what you need to do next. Recommendations, other research that could be done. You may do a literary review on some of your qualitative information that will help support what those people said, because although a qualitative study is really great for direction, it's not statistically reliable. So you can come up with some ideas through qualitative research. It gives you great understanding, meaning into things. However, it doesn't give you it's not like an exact science that quantitative can give you. So usually the combination of both qualitative and quantitative research together are used most effectively when they complement one another and build up on one another. Anyway, this is my quick lecture today on SurveyMonkey, how to use the filters to better analyze your data. The videos are posted in Blackboard, but they're also in this video. In addition, telling great stories. We had Joe Amati speak last week. He did a really good job of explaining how to do that and how to creating insights into your data, which helps you drive stories. I would suggest you take all this information and come up with a great story about your event research that you did. I suggest you create the presentation that's visual in nature. Your report is all the detail, but the presentation deck, or whatever you're using to present, it tells a story and is visual in nature. Do you guys have any questions of me at all? Okay, thanks guys. I will be online here. If you want to ask any questions about your study or need any help, I'll be online for probably another half an hour. Just reach out and say, hey, Ron, and I'll respond. So thanks, guys.
Thank you, Ron.